That was a little bit of
intense.
That was a little bit of G-force. Probably pulling like 0.00001.
Probably.
I'm passed out in the back.
Yeah. When I made a comment on like how open it was or whatever, and then you did like the left and then the right thing, and you're like, yeah, it's one thing to do it this way, and then
we did the slip, so we slipped the
towards
one way,
the open side of the
but
plane.
then we turned and slipped towards the door.
Stomach rolled a little bit.
Yeah. I got done. I was like, my stomach's not used to that.
Forgot my parachute down there.
Yes,
that was a lot of fun.
Getting everybody up to speed. The Pat took us up in his plane yesterday, so that we could have that experience and talk about it. And man, that was fun. So thank you.
That was like really cool.
That was a
Thanks
treat.
It was seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was a blast.
It was amazing to see how different everything looked from up there. I think we talked about that, but
yeah, I couldn't stop telling Brielle about it. I was like, I think I ran her through like the whole experience, like start
minute
to
by
finish.
minute. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie was like, that was the coolest thing ever. She got to watch us. That was kind of. Did you know that she pulled out of our house like as we were going over the house?
Oh, okay. Nope.
Yeah. So we basically like followed her.
Yeah.
Almost the whole way to the airfield. That was cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So fast. Like Martinsburg was like 5 minutes away.
Right. Yeah.
Like as the crow flies, like the county's a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It was really like, we got to fly over the kids. We flew to Martinsburg, and the kids were all in the backyard, and they were like waving.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Rocky.
Yeah.
Watched him. Brielle took a video. Rocky like threw a fit that I didn't wave back.
You were like holding on to the seat so hard.
He couldn't see me up there, but he was like, you didn't wave back. Can't make him happy.
Yeah.
I asked Pat when we were up there, I was like, does it ever get old? Like, especially coming back to bare bones. You fly a lot bigger planes than that for your work. So, and he was like, oh, like there's long days, like for sure, like with any job. But he goes, but everything's a little different every time. And I can't imagine getting used to that.
Yeah. That was like seriously one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so Pat Harney is in studio in the flesh, straight from continents away, almost as far away as you could get, probably. Yeah. And when we were starting this podcast, like you were like one of the first people who were like, we got to have Pat. When he's up, we got to get him on.
Yeah.
Because you have pretty cool experiences and pretty cool jobs. So why don't you just take a quick second and introduce yourself, just who you are, how you grew up, and how you get into flying.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Patrick Harney. I grew up just over here on the Benton Road. Pretty much my whole life was here. We moved here when I was little, 3 or 4, I think. And ever since I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to fly airplanes. Wow. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I guess every little kid probably says that, but for me, it was very just like this is all I want to do. One thing, no plan B. I wanted to fly airplanes, and grew up on a farm. Just a couple miles from here, and so grew up running equipment with my hands. And Dad was pretty good about putting us on stuff and giving us responsibility when we were little.
Yep.
And I think I talked with Nick about that yesterday, and I think that translated really well to just the operation of an aircraft. And 2 was homeschooled all the way up through, and so that gave us a lot of flexibility in what we were able to do. And my parents were really good about seeing what like our passions were, and then just giving us opportunity in those areas, right? It's like me with aviation and machinery, and then Dan, my brother, with horses and animals and all that stuff. And I had nothing to do with animals, and he had nothing to do with airplanes, just because we were very very different. And so when I was 15, I got a couple airplane rides when I was little with Tom Rowe, Jeff Duflo.
Oh, okay.
Went up with those guys a time or two. Went to air shows and stuff. My grandparents, my mom's parents were super, super involved and super supportive, just in encouragement and then financially too, to help pay for me to get my pilot certificate. And so then when I was 15, through a contact of Mom and Dad, I started working up at Watertown Airport. Well, I started volunteering at first, volunteering in the shop. And so I was just around airplanes like one day a week. Mom would drive an hour to Watertown. I'd spend 5-6 hours in the shop just watching it first while Mom just hung out, going to town or whatever, and then come back. So that was a huge commitment on her part.
That.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 15. And then the guys up there realized I was somewhat useful. I mean, I could clean a spark plug or pack a wheel bearing or, do kind of the basic maintenance stuff. And so then when I was 16 and could drive, I started working up there. So I was working up there in the shop a day or two a week, and then I ended up working on the line, which is like the fueler. So pumping fuel into jets, planes, setting up rental cars, catering, hotels, whatever for people coming through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the business of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just, and I usually did that on Saturday. It was long days. It was 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So 13-hour shifts.
Wow.
On Saturdays. And sometimes I do like Friday, Saturday, and I would just spend the night up there. I'd go up Friday morning, be there at 7. So I'd leave the house at like 5:15.
Wow.
Something like that. Drive up there, work till 8 p.m., spend the night, open at 7 the next day, do a 13, and then come home. Yeah, so did that till I graduated, till I left the area, and then I went to school down in Texas at LeTourneau University, and down there got pretty much all my other ratings. In aviation, there's different levels of ratings, right? It's like a driver's license and a CDL. Same idea. You get your private, you can go fly little airplanes around, take people for rides, whatever. And then you get your instrument, which means you can do that same thing but fly in the clouds. And then on top of that, you get your commercial, which means you can make money flying. Which is nice.
That helps. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good.
And then you get a multi-engine in there to fly an airplane with more than one engine. And then on top of that, you get your ATP, which is airline transport pilot, which is what you would need to go fly like for the airlines.
Okay.
And so like for what I'm doing, I wouldn't need an ATP, an airline transport pilot, but it's just one of those things that's like good to have. It's not a bad thing to just kind of have it all. And that's kind of as high as you can go. You can get, on top of that, you get type ratings to fly specific airplanes. Like the DC-3, you need a check ride. So you need a license to fly a DC-3. Once you get over a certain weight of aircraft, over 12,500 pounds, you have to get a type. So anyway, so did most of my other ratings in Texas. And then summers in between school years, I was going up to Alaska with a group called Kingdom Air Corps, a guy named Dwayne King. And I think that's really where I think the Lord really used that to foster a desire to serve him direct with aviation. Because when I was a kid, like the airlines didn't really appeal, corporate didn't really appeal. Like it's like the bush pilots appealed, the crop dusters appealed. That was kind of the direction I thought I would like to do, I wanted to do. And in the world's eyes, that wouldn't make a lot of sense because the airline is like the top. They make tons of money and have good schedules and this, that, and the other thing. But that never really appealed. So I think, I know the Lord really used Dwayne and his leadership. He spent a lifetime serving people with airplanes. And the Lord used him to impact me in my life to kind of set me on that trajectory. So I was flying with Kingdom Air Corps summers in between school years doing flight instruction the last couple, so teaching people who want to be missionary pilots, and then also doing Bible camps in the summer for Native kids. So going to villages where there's no roads in or out. The only way in is by plane. So go and pick up the kids, bring them to camp, do camp with them for a week or two, and then take them home. And the Alaska Native culture, there's a lot of challenges there. There's a lot of hardship there in those communities. So that was a blessing to be able to do that. And then so once I graduated from LeTourneau, I worked with Kingdom Air Corps for about a year and a half, full time, and then the Lord very clearly opened the door to move to Africa, which is another story.
Whoa.
But so that's kind of how I got started.
Alaska and Africa, same
climate,
right. Same everything. Yeah.
Arctic Circle to the equator.
Less to pack in Africa, probably.
Yeah.
Less coats.
Less coats for sure.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is a cool transition. But I wanted to just jump back to your parents. That is a special thing when and I think so important. I feel like my parents did that too. Like whatever, from a very young age, like I was never like I want to do that. Mm-hmm. I wish I was.
I know, me too. Same.
Probably
I'm amazed by stories like that. Like I had friends growing up that were the same, and I was like, man, like I wish I knew what's wrong with me. Like I don't know what I want to do, and that's amazing. Like I wish I knew what that was like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if anybody saw Pat's room when he was a kid, there's planes everywhere.
A question about that real quick? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So on the whole, like knowing what you wanted to do early, when you found out like how hard it was going to be, like, so everybody has dreams, right? Like if you're a kid and you know what you want to be an astronaut or a doctor, but then you get to a point where you realize like the schooling and the education and like how hard it is to actually get there.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize like, oh, this is going to take tons of training, tons of schooling, the whole licensing process for all the things that you want to do? Did that seem intimidating and kind of, or were you like super excited for that? And just seemed normal because you kind of grew up in it, I guess, or
yeah. I think the realization of what it would take kind of came on slow.
Okay.
You know, so like when you're little, it's like I want to be a pilot, and then you realize, oh, there's different levels to this. There's different ratings you have to get. There's a certain amount of time this is going to take. And so I think as I realized that more and more, or I did realize that more and more, but as I kind of figured out what it was going to take, it didn't matter because that was the goal. That was what was going to happen.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that would have been fun to have that clear of vision from the very beginning.
Well, I think it's just God's goodness too, because I mean, a lot of people probably have that, and then for whatever reason they can't get there.
Oh yeah,
or don't get there, you know. But it's, I mean, I've probably been seconds and inches away from losing an eye, and then the whole dream would be gone just like that. I think it's just God's goodness that I'm able to do what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things. Yeah, if anybody hears baby crying, those are mine.
Every episode.
Every episode, I have to send that disclaimer.
Better bring my kids sometimes.
Somebody's like, "Who's
Yeah, you should. I could have brought mine. We could have like 30 kids up there.
That's mine this time.
We could have
play the game. Name the baby that's crying.
Yeah, and at least people aren't like, "Who's leaving the kids
Watch our
upstairs
kids grow up.
just crying?"
Crying by the sound of the cry.
Oh, I have so many questions already from what you said, but no, from a parenting perspective, I think that's so important. Like, a lot of parents will look at their kids and have a vision for them already, and then kind of push them a lot. And my parents did similar to your parents. Kind of, what are you interested in, and then we'll give you opportunities, or we'll funnel those for you and let you make your own path. That's so so important. If I can do that,
that's right where we're at right now. Like, we homeschool our kids, and with Levi being 7 now, like that's like, we are just starting that process of trying to see like what he's interested in, what he's not interested in, and figure out how to like funnel him into things that he's interested in, so that he doesn't, like, you know, spend the next 10 years in his education not knowing, not having direction. And it's like harder than it looks.
I believe it. Yeah.
Because like not every kid, you know, knows what they want to do. And it's, but it's feeling more like critical to me now than it ever has, with Levi being right at that age, and like, all right, what's he interested in? How can we push him in that direction and support that? And it's like a lot of pressure.
And too, in building, like encouraging and letting them choose a direction, but at the same time, I think we have a responsibility to kind of steer that direction a little bit. I mean, if my kid wanted to play in the NBA, I'd be like, sorry, bud. I mean, we can give it a shot, but you know, it's you know, or I don't know what our role in that is, but I think it's definitely to bring wisdom to their desires, and in that, be able to get him on a good path.
Yeah, well, that's good advice. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Just Levi, that was what he wants to do, is the NBA. So
well, put that fire out, man. I'm Pistol Pete. I mean, go for it. Maybe you're tall. Maybe you got a shot. I'm like 5'10", dude. I got.
So far, it's not looking good. Levi's like Rocky's.
I guess your wife isn't real tall either.
Levi's like skinny. He's all skin and bones. And,
I think that's good advice. I really do, because episode 9 was with Ezra Segrist.
Okay.
And he was talking a little bit about maybe not so much telling them what they should do, but maybe giving them some wisdom about some bad ideas, you know, and what might not be good.
Yeah, I heard there was, I think it was Mike Rowe talking, and he was like, yep, everybody says, follow your dreams, follow your dreams, follow your dreams. But on American Idol every year, I've never watched American Idol, but I hear there's...
Don't lie, Pat. Every episode.
There's however many people that like go onto that show. They're all following their dreams, and they all just get canned. And most of them are terrible. Right. So Mike Rowe's like, you know, don't follow your dreams. Find something you're good at. You know, don't follow your passion. Find something that you're good at. Follow opportunity, and then take your passion with you. And I thought that was good. Like, see where there's an opportunity. See something that needs done. See something you're good at. Do it, but then bring that passion along. Yeah. And, good at it. I thought that was a good. I thought that was a good line.
And maybe that brings purpose too.
Yeah,
it's like a mindset, perspective thing too. That's wow.
Yep. And too, just to live in a country where we have these options and opportunities, right? Like, I wanted to be a pilot, and here we are. You know, there's kids all over the world that might have that same dream and could be better than I am, but just don't, for whatever reason, don't have that opportunity. So we're definitely blessed.
Yeah, for a multiplicity of reasons, for sure. Yeah, that's really good. All right, Nick, you got something? Because I have like 85 questions.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm like thinking ahead, but we're not there yet. I was going to ask what you want to do in your future, but I feel like we're a little ways off.
There's a lot we're missing. Okay, one thing would be when you moved away for the first time. that would have been Laterno, right?
Yeah. Yep.
First.
Yep.
And then Alaska soon after that in your summers?
Yeah, that first summer, the first summer I was up in Alaska for about 6 weeks. So I don't remember if I came back here. I think I came back here that summer. I don't know if it was before and after, or if it was like just after Alaska.
Okay.
But then the second and third summers between school years, I was pretty much up there the whole time. So I wasn't really around after that.
Okay.
So between Laterno and Kingdom Air Corps, how did you get connected with Kingdom Air Corps?
So I had a desire to go to Alaska, Bush Plains, mountains, Alaska. And then when I was at Laterno, they had a missions emphasis week every spring. And so mission groups would come in from all over the world and recruit and talk to kids and all that. And Dwayne King came down, and he was from Alaska. So I ended up talking to him, and he invited me up to Alaska, for the summer. No, I take that back. So the first time I went up there, it was through Laterno. They had a vision trip. So the aviation students who were thinking about doing missions went on like a 6-week trip to see what mission aviation is actually like. And so I had friends who went to Africa and kind of all over the world, and I went to Alaska with Dwayne for that 6-week time. Wow. So that was through the school, a school program. And then after that first summer, just in hanging out with and flying with Dwayne, then he invited me back the next summer.
Wow, talk about opportunity.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you look at the career path and just see like all the doors?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, with Kingdom Air Corps and then with Samaritan's Purse, with moving to Africa, the doors is very clearly opened, and you can kind of see it in real time. But then, like you're saying, when you look back, it's like, oh yeah, there it is. You can see how the Lord just lined up thing after thing after thing. Yeah,
that seems like such a hard thing, because sometimes that is happening, but it doesn't really look like it, or it's not like you would think that it would look. And then other times it's so blatant and it's so obvious.
Yep.
Like, I know
it's probably good if it's not so obvious, because that means you have more faith than I do. I need here it is.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise,
open the door, or I'm not going through it. Yes.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely been times in my life where I've felt that. I felt God opening a door right in front of me. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go through that. And then the next door is like, oh, okay, now I see what's happening here. And then it's like, I guess I got to see this through, because this might be be important.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not. Yeah, it's for sure. Yeah.
But that's neat. So pretty much you've had it easy forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
I knew what I wanted to do when I was a kid. All the doors open for me.
No hard work on my part
No
at all.
hard work. Yeah. No 13-hour days at the airport.
No, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is Laterno, was that like a Christian school?
It is,
with
yeah.
the missions
Yeah.
aviation.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it exclusively like for aviation?
No, it's not. They're kind of known for aviation and engineering, but they had all the liberal arts degrees, and I think they're doing that more and more.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
okay. So it's like it's an actual like accredited college. Like you have a bachelor's degree or whatever.
Bachelor's degree.
So what is your degree in?
I have to think a minute.
Who cares, right?
No, what did they call it? I think they call it aeronautical science.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty
so,
cool.
So the degree I got, it's basically all the flying plus all the maintenance stuff to get it's called an AMP, airframe and power plant mechanics license, and then all the other classes, chemistry and calculus, to make it a college degree.
Yeah. Okay. Like a legit.
In growing up on
Legit. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well,
I wasn't sure if it was like a technical school or like a
Sure.
Like,
great, I'm the dumbest one in the room again.
Oh man, I probably am, but that's all right. I just have a business degree. The most general thing in the world.
I have a history degree. I'm not even doing that.
So aeronautical science.
That's what they call it.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah, that sounds pretty
That'll look
official.
good hanging on the wall.
I have no idea what my diploma is.
Dude, I was the same. I didn't even go to my graduation.
Yeah,
I just like skipped it.
Can you guys
I
mail
think
this
it's in
to
like
me?
a box somewhere in the closet. I have no idea.
Don't need it.
So growing up on a farm then was a big stepping stone to the engineering side, the mechanical side. And so probably a lot of that felt like, you have to learn the airplane and how that works. But machinery is machinery too, and things kind of function the same.
Yeah.
So that must have been like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, sitting in a whatever it was, tractor, skid steer, excavator, and you move your hands, and then you see the effects of that in the bucket or whatever, and then you very quickly adapt and correct. Same thing flying an airplane. Yep. Yep, same
Same.
idea.
That easy.
Same thing. It's like you can go to go-kart track and then you're get a NASCAR.
Practically a pilot.
So Pat let me steer the rear joystick.
Yeah, I forgot to let you drive.
Unbelievable.
Go back up.
We gotta go back
He
up.
let you barrel roll on the runway, so I don't want to hear it. So yeah, and that was. It's not as easy as the tractor thing. I guess if you grew up, like, I moved it like an inch and the plane like...
And then he's like, I don't like it.
Yeah,
Take it back, please.
Pretty much. Yeah, no, that was cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I can... So like, are you pretty like mechanically inclined and did it feel natural to you, or was it all a product of growing up on the farm and like fixing stuff and knowing how things worked? Or do you feel like you were born for it? Like you're a natural at... Some people can just fix things, you know?
Yeah. I think my brain, well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say how much is natural and how much is a product of my upbringing. Yeah, you never know. But yeah, I think that's kind of the way that my brain works, is I want to really understand like the root of it, just have a deep understanding of what's going on. And so like when you're flying an airplane, aerodynamically, what's going on this wing versus that wing, because it's different. And then, I really want to understand. I don't know if that was homeschool, if that was mom teaching, or it's just that's the way my brain's wired. And growing up too, we grew up on the farm for sure, but I wasn't out there like overhauling lawnmowers when I was 5 either. Yeah. But then working at the airport in Watertown from like 15 to 18 really helped, because we were pulling cylinders off and getting pretty deep into maintenance of aircraft. And so that really helped going to school for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So that's,
and you can see the difference. I mean, I had classmates just with the way they grew up, they had no opportunity. So like we'd take an engine apart and they'd be like, okay, which one's the piston? Which one's the cylinder? And I'd look at them and just be like, what? But it's just with, the way they came up through, didn't have that opportunity. But I had done this, like I've done this before, like kind of the first year of college was all stuff I'd done before. When does that ever happen? Both in the flying side and the maintenance side. So that was cool.
Yeah, it seems like you were set up for that pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Okay, so just real quick, can you explain like kind of from beginning to finish a little bit about how your airplane works? Like yesterday you were cranking on the propeller to get the fuel into the engine. Yeah. So that, and then, you start it, and like how like what kind of engine's in that thing? Okay. Like I saw the engine sticking out of the front of the plane a bit, right? So can you just like, I don't know, that's fascinating.
Can you give you the overview of my airplane?
Like kind of put it in like motorcycle speak, or compare it to something that I would understand.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So it's a 1949 Piper PA-11 Cub Special.
That's
the name of her.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
Test at the end of this.
Beauty.
So 1949 Cub, and kind of comes from a lineage of aircraft that are this same style. 2-seat tandem tail dragger. Call it tube and fabric. Fuselage is steel tubing covered in fabric.
I told Brielle that, and she was like, "You flew in that thing?"
Yeah, like jumping off the couch with a bed sheet. It's the same.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, so the engine is a Continental C90-8F. So it's a 4-cylinder, horizontally opposed, air-cooled engine. Okay. 2 cylinders on each side, run into one crank. Push rod motor, so central camshaft. Push rods out to the cylinder heads. So camshaft, lifter, push rod, rocker, pushing the valves open and closed. Same as on a Chevy V8. Okay. Same idea. Yep. So that's the engine. Yeah, 90 horsepower at redline. They call it fixed pitch propeller. So the propeller just is what it is. Just spins. The blade angle doesn't change. Flight controls. It's got ailerons for roll, elevator for up and down, and then rudder to yaw the airplane. And those are all through the stick and pedals with cables. Weighs 765 pounds, empty, gross weight, max takeoff weight's 1220. Holds 17 gallons of gas, burns 4.5 an hour. And then like you were talking about, spinning the prop or whatever. Yeah. No electrical system on the airplane.
Oh, okay.
And so the engine has dual independent ignition systems. So it's got 2 magnetos. Technology circa 1935 on there, and then 2 spark plugs per cylinder. Those are driven via gears off the accessory housing of the engine, and so if one should fail, the engine will still run. So 2 completely independent ignition systems, and there's obviously electricity in those to spark the spark plugs, but there's no other electrics on the airplane. So there's no starter, no battery, no alternator, no wiring, no radio, no intercom wired in. And so to start the airplane, the idea is you're just popping the clutch. Okay. Basically, same idea. You know, you get it in gear. It's always in gear because the propeller is bolted onto the crank. And you prime the airplane, shoot some gas in there. I pulled 4 blades through just to kind of disperse the fuel air mixture in all 4 cylinders.
Yeah, what that means is he was turning the propeller manually.
Yep. So 2 hands. Yep, 2 hands on the front for that, and swinging it, and just clicking. And you could hear it, every cylinder. Yeah. You could hear every cylinder kind of go. And then once it was primed, turn the magnetos on. So that's with the ignition off. So unless something's broken, it won't start. And you saw me like swinging my leg and making sure I was moving away. In case she started, you want to be always moving away from that propeller. Yep. So pulled 4 blades, turned the mags on, and then just spun it from behind, so I could get into the plane quick and just make sure everything was okay. So holding on tight to the door post so I couldn't fall into the propeller, and then just spin it, and it just hits on one. It's not like you gotta, spin it multiple times. That was just one cylinder through the power stroke, and she lights off. Then jump inside, make sure the power's set right, looking for oil pressure right away. Oil pressure's coming up in a couple seconds, and that's it.
Yep. Okay,
so
that is super cool.
There you go.
I have all that written down. I don't have to listen to that back 4 times. Okay, I got it. Wow, man, that is cool.
So there's no electronics on. That means all those gauges are running on.
Correct.
Some kind of bubble and leveling type system. Like I'm thinking about the altitude. Like how do those gauges work?
Yeah,
oil
so the
pressure,
instruments are bare bones. Pretty much only have what we need. So we have like a tachometer, how fast the engine's spinning, and that would just be a cable coming back from the engine, spinning inside a sheath.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, and then you have airspeed and altitude for external what the airplane's doing. Then you have oil temperature and oil pressure. So oil pressure is just reading the pressure in a line somewhere on the engine. Oil temperature, there's a little bulb that's the oil's washing over, and then the
fuel level gauge.
Fuel level gauge.
Did
I point that out to you? I don't know if I did. You did?
The wall.
Yeah, right up on the top,
Yep.
and it's just floating there. The little bead in the tank.
Yeah, that's
super basic.
Sweet.
I saw that.
Super basic. And then the altimeter, there's just a bellows in there, like a sealed bellows. And so as you climb, air pressure decreases, and so that bellows will expand. And then that expansion translates to moving the needles. And then the airspeed, there's a tube that the air is pressing against when you're flying forward. And then there's also a bellows inside, just like the altimeter, and it's just measuring the differential in pressure between those two things and translates that to airspeed.
That was so freaking cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
super basic.
Amazing.
And then a magnetic compass, which is just like what you use in the Boy Scouts to navigate.
That's
That's
how
all
you knew
she's
where
got.
north was. I knew it.
It didn't have anything
You're
with
like,
the
we're
sun
gonna head
setting
back
in the
north.
west.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You're gonna head back north, and I was like, yeah, definitely. That's definitely north.
I see over there.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
cool.
like the coolest.
That's fascinating.
Thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose feed here in a second. But when we come back, I'd like to touch again on Kingdom Air Corps in Alaska and the transition then to Africa.
Yeah.
Which just seems like an easy transition, just like going from New York to Pennsylvania, and then a little bit about your family life and stuff like that, because that seems like about the same time period. Sound good?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. We'll be right back, everybody. And we're back from the break. I should ask you if you needed anything on the break.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so we left off talking about the specs of your plane, which is awesome. And I was very surprised by the lightweightedness.
Technical term.
Is that the official term?
That's what we call it.
Yeah, like you pushed it out onto the runway. And,
sure.
Backed
Just
it back,
push out the
pulled
hanger,
it
yeah.
back in, yeah.
And it's very small. And how did you get in, by the way? Because I kind of wanted to record that.
It actually wasn't so bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
bad.
Decent. Mm-hmm. It was more like Pat, like me trying not to drive my knees into his shoulders and throw the
right. I didn't have the same
the
problem. No, I didn't have the same problem.
And I was so tall. I was so tall that my head like was bumping your harness, and so I was like trying not. Like if you're in a car in the back seat and your kid's toe is like pulling on your seatbelt,
yeah,
and
like,
it's
hey,
like
what is
so
that?
annoying.
Yep.
That was my head on your harness last night. I was like trying
kicking
to
the
not
back of
bump
the
the
chair.
harness.
There was a point when I told Pat, like, is there anything that I shouldn't touch? Like, I don't want because I think that knob right there says throttle.
Yeah,
I don't really.
I bumped that with my elbow, and I was like, "Oh crap!"
I think I did too. Right when he started, and I was like, I hope this doesn't just start like. Well, see you later, guys. I guess I'm flying today.
Probably not much could go wrong. Like once you're.
And that's the beauty too of a lack of systems and complexity. Yeah, there's not much. Like as long as the fuel is on, primer's locked. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's
all.
kind of like
really.
Yeah. So can you just like as briefly as you want? It doesn't matter. You can go into it too. Like that's your baby now. Like you got an airplane. That's
Yeah, I
like
got a plane.
a dream that you've had for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably ever since I started flying, I wanted to buy something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy looking back on that too, just like we were saying before, how the Lord kind of lines things up, because we were praying pretty intentionally, like, Lord, we'd love to buy something you want to give us, great. If not, no worries. Yeah, I mean, he kind of gave us what I wanted, which was cool. This is kind of the exact make and model that I was looking for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can go into details on all that if you want.
Do it, yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you find an airplane?
Yeah, so
it's not like buying a car.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of is.
Auto trader, pilot trader.
Yeah, trade a plane. Yep.
Trade a plane. Planes.com.
Barnstormers. Yeah.
Plane guru.
Yeah, so I mean, I look at airplanes all the time. Just log on and see what's out there, but not really seriously. You go through. I mean, you look at airplanes for a while, then you look at dirt bikes for a while, then you look at trucks, then you look at houses. Let's go back to planes. I can relate.
Everyone's got the cycle, and yours just has airplanes.
Mine just has airplanes added in. Yeah, exactly. But yours might now too. We'll see. Maybe. I can send you some links.
Since you got the hand on the joystick, you're like, I can do this.
I can totally do this.
So I was looking at them. And I sent one to Whitney, just not even really seriously. Just saying, hey, what do you think? And she didn't know if I was serious or not. And I didn't. I kind of forgot about it. I was out flying. I was out up in South Sudan flying, and I got back on Friday. And she's like, "Did you ever call the guy about the champ?" And I was like, "No, was I supposed to?" And so we ended up kind of trying to chase that one. Well, no, and then we kind of left it for a while, and then a friend of ours kind of brought us back to it. And so we did try to buy that one. Called the owner, and we're working on a purchase agreement, and got an insurance quote, and I was planning out how to go get it and all that stuff. And then it kind of fell through very last minute, and the seller kind of backed out. And we were kind of bummed, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? The door closed. No worries. Mm-hmm. But then kind of started looking a little bit more intentionally for an airplane. Had one in Canada lined up that we almost bought, but that would have been complicated because it was Canadian registered. So you would have to import it and then get it U.S. registered, which is kind of complicated. It has to get inspected by a airworthiness guy and all this stuff. And so that would have been cost and complexity to the whole operation. Mm-hmm. And so we were waiting for some paperwork to come back on that one to look at, to review, to see kind of what it would cost. And the day that paperwork came back and I was looking through it, this one was listed. This one got posted. And so I called the guy right away, called the seller, and the seller was selling it for the owner. Talked to the seller, and the airplane's got kind of an interesting history. It had been sitting for about 10 years. So I hadn't flown for a while due to, health issues with the owner, which is really sad. Mm-hmm. But he decided it was time to part ways with the airplane. And so I called the seller, talked to him, got a hold of the owner. And from the time I saw it and it was listed to the time I made him an offer was like a day, 2 days or something like that. And so bought it sight unseen, did the all the paperwork and paid for it, and then went and picked it up a couple weeks ago. Wow. Yeah, it was neat the way it worked out.
Whitney is Pat's wife, for anybody who doesn't know. It's a good thing you didn't get the Canadian plane, because then you would have had to say all your commands with it, Canadian, hey, we're getting ready to fly here.
Worked out. It's yellow, but it's not a lemon.
That's right. It's a peach.
That's way better. Peaches are way better than lemons.
That was a joke. Yeah. So you bought it sight unseen, you felt confident that I don't know. Can you? Is that a thing, buying planes that end up being lemons?
Yeah,
or?
For sure, 100%. Okay. Yeah, 100%. And two, it kind of depends on what airplane you're buying. And two, I was talking to the guy who was selling it, the guy who had it listed. It was in his hangar for 10 years. He's a mechanic for American Airlines. So he does avionics for American Airlines, and he owns an airplane that's almost identical to this one. It's a Piper J3 Cub, so it's just a little bit different than ours. And so I was talking to him, and he said, "Yeah, the airplane hadn't flown in 10 years." And I was almost like, "Oh, thanks for your time," because if it's been sitting, there's probably all kinds of stuff wrong with it.
Oh yeah.
But then he started talking about the process he went through to get it going again, and it just blew me away. If it was me, I probably would have checked the gas, changed the oil, and seen if it would start, kind of thing.
Yep.
But he was like, "Oh no, we before we touched the propeller, we didn't move the pistons, didn't move the crank at all. We pulled all the spark plugs, fogged all the cylinders with oil, so all the rings are going to be running on oil. We drained the oil, we put new oil in it. we primed the whole oil system before we ran the airplane. So pushed oil up through to make sure all the bearings had oil in them. Pulled the carburetor off, sent it out for overhaul. So didn't even see if it would work. Pulled the carburetor off, sent it to a shop, probably cost, several $100s, just because it'd been sitting for a while. It's like, if you're doing all of that, you're probably doing it right. And I started it up, got oil pressure, and so that was encouraging. Just talking to him. If he wasn't selling it, I don't think we'd have bought it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So he was kind of key in getting it bought. And then it was cool talking to the owner, older gentleman, family, grandkids, and all that, and just kind of telling him. Ended up talking to him and his wife about the airplane, and then he asked kind of what I do for a living and the family, and just tried to make it clear, like, I'm not looking to flip it. If my kids want to learn to fly, they don't have to, but if they want to, I'll teach them how to fly in it. When I'm too old to use it, pass it on to one of them someday. And I think that resonated with him a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then it was neat when we went to pick it up. He came out, so I got to meet him and his wife. And then one of his sons and grandsons came out, so I got to give one of his grandsons a ride in Grandpa's plane. And the airplane's been sitting for 10 years, and he was 12, so he had never actually gotten to fly in it. So that was a pretty neat opportunity for everybody involved, just to get him a ride in Grandpa's plane before it
feel a little
left
bit
forever.
of Grandpa's legacy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the 12-year-old kid, he wants to be a pilot when he grows up. So who knows, maybe this ride is the thing that'll set him on that course. You never know. Dang. Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Neat opportunities.
That's awesome. I mentioned your wife briefly.
Yeah.
Where did you meet her? And can you just tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah. So I met her at college, at school down in Texas. Yep. She's from South Central Minnesota, a year behind me in school. Similar major. She went. So my major, I didn't major in the mission aviation program because the mission aviation guys didn't get a multi-engine rating.
Oh, okay.
Because they said all the mission organizations fly single-engine airplanes. Now I'm flying for a mission organization flying a multi-engine airplane. Again, cool the way, I don't know why I made that decision, but I was like, I want a multi-rating.
Well, when that opportunity came, you're like, I have that.
Right, I got that.
Yep. Yeah.
I can fly multi.
Yep. And
so that was really neat. And so I didn't actually do the missions, so I added on some of the mission aviation classes, like that trip to Alaska. So that was a class with academics, and then that trip was kind of the end of the class. And so I wasn't in the mission major because I got the multi. But she started in the mission major. So she kind of did a really similar thing to what I did. She was working in the local airport when she was a kid, got her private license before she finished high school, same as I did, and went to Laterno with the major of mission aviation. And it was interesting. A recruiter for a mission organization told her that there's no women mission aviation pilots. So therefore,
anywhere?
That's what he said.
That he knew of.
Yeah, and so therefore you should pick a major that you can go and make money at, and pay off your school loans and maybe support missions or whatever. But it's interesting. I don't know if there was, how long this 10, 15 years ago, but now there definitely are women flying mission aviation airplanes all over the world. Even where we fly, there's women. Yeah, so it's interesting.
Precipice of progress there.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But I think the Lord used it because she got her degree then, so she has her private and her instrument rating and her A&P, so she can work on them. She's a mechanic on the airplanes. But it's cool. I don't know why. When I was a kid, or not a kid, but getting older, I said I don't want to marry a pilot. And I don't know why I would even say that. Like, why would I make that a prereq?
Yeah.
Then I met Whitney. I was like, well, that's out the window.
Yeah, right.
But it's been a huge blessing because, especially for like what I'm doing, like my profession, it's such a blessing to have somebody who understands. Like, I go fly for a day and I get home and I'm tired, and somebody who didn't know what was going on would say, why are you tired? You just sat in a seat all day. You just sat in a chair all day. But it's mentally taxing and all this stuff. And I can talk about, a student I was flying with and some struggles that we're having, or man, the weather was bad, or the cargo didn't show up, or whatever it was, and she can relate because she's been in that world, and she's flown with me over in Africa several times. So it's really a blessing to have somebody who understands so deeply what I do, doing it with me, which is really cool.
That is cool.
So we met at school down in Texas. Started dating my last semester. And then, we're going out for about a year, got engaged, March of 14, and then got married August of 14.
Okay.
Yep.
So wait, I'm trying to think, when was she come up here for the first time? Were you guys dating or engaged? Sounds like maybe engaged.
She would have come up. Oh man, she would remember. Should have brought her along with me.
Well, the reason I ask is because I remember meeting her for the first time.
Was it for the taffy pole? Did we do a taffy pole at Rhema at church?
Yes.
I think we did.
Okay.
So that would have been. It would have been for Thanksgiving. It probably would have been Thanksgiving, 2013. So I'd have been out of school. She'd have been in her senior year. And we weren't engaged yet because we got engaged March the next year.
That's
so we were
right.
just going out.
I remember that because it was in the old.
In the downstairs. Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because, like, there's been a few times where really close friends of mine have brought a girl home.
Yeah.
And well, our friend group is pretty unique in a lot of ways. Real high quality men. Yeah. But I remember seeing her for the first time, meeting her, and being like, "Yep, done deal."
That'll work.
That's
cool.
Pat.
That's funny.
For sure. Like she's just wonderful.
Yeah, she is. She's a rock star, man. So supportive, and I'm gone a lot, and never complains, and takes care of the kids, and incredible.
Yeah, and so find you somebody like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you guys graduate. You're both graduated, and then were you married after graduation?
Yeah, so I was out of school for a year and up in Alaska for the summer. She came up to Alaska. Would have been 2 summers. So the first summer she came up through another class that Laternal offered in partnership with Kingdom Air Corps, a maintenance class, aircraft inspections. So she came up there for that, and then she came up and did Bible camp with us that summer, which was a really cool opportunity. She stuck around at the ranch because we were dating at that point, and did Bible camp, and that was really fun to get to experience that together, because Bible camp is off the grid, completely off the grid, no cell service, maybe a sat phone, but it's in the mountains, and it's just an airstrip. You can't. The only way you can get there is via airplane. So if the weather rolls in, you're stuck. No showers. You heat up a bucket of water on a stove and then hoist it up with a pulley, and then there's a shower head in the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket. Wash your hair in the river kind of thing. Really, really great. Cool. But it was really it was really fun. It was fun to do that together. So she was up there that summer. And then she went back down to Texas and finished up. I came through with Kingdom Air Corps as part of Missions Emphasis Week. So then I was kind of coming back to school and saw her at Missions Emphasis Week the year after I was out. And then I was in South Carolina for spring break, South Carolina for the spring. She came over there for spring break. That's when we got engaged in March. And then we were back up in Alaska that summer, and we got married up in Alaska in 2014.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah, and then the week after we got married, so Africa wasn't on the radar. We weren't talking about it. Neither one of us had ever been outside North America, U.S. and Canada. That was it. Yep. And we get back from the honeymoon, and we're talking to Dwayne. Have you met Dwayne?
I don't,
because he's come through and talked at Naumburg and a couple different places around here.
I think I was at one of those talks, but I didn't get to meet him.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I mean, you'd have to know him. I mean, lifelong missionary, sees people. It's amazing the way he can see people. It's easy for me to miss people in the mission. I'm very mission oriented, and it's easy to miss even taking 20 seconds and for somebody, but he doesn't. He sees people, and it's really, really powerful. And he's also a visionary. So one of his sayings is, "God loves you, and Dwayne has a wonderful plan for your life." Like, he says that all the time.
I love it.
And a lot of those plans work out. So a week after we get back from the honeymoon, we're just kind of hanging around talking, and he's like, "Hey, how about flying a DC-3 in Africa?" I'm like, "Yeah, sounds great," because Dwayne's a visionary.
Yeah, right.
And when he's like, "What?" And the Lord just boom, boom, boom from that point on. And long story short, we moved to Africa like 5 months after that.
Wow, that is fast.
Yeah, it was super fast.
That's
and a lot
fast
of people,
from not being on the radar at all to being like, we're in Africa.
Yeah, and a lot of people said, and some mission organizations won't let people move to the field within a year of when they get married. It's like too many life changes. Okay. You have to be married for a year and then go. But for us, it was really good. I think if I was around here up in Alaska, I'd have had a truck project in the garage. I'd have been out hunting. I'd have been riding snow sleds. I'd have been doing a million other things.
Getting
not spend the time together. But we moved to Africa, and Whitney was the only person I knew for 8,000 miles. And so we just had to do everything together, and it was really, really good. I think we got really close, really quickly, because of that.
Be important to know who you're marrying then in that case, for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool the way the Lord worked that out.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So never been out of North America, and then you're flying planes in Africa.
Yeah.
What was that like? Was there any point when you were there when you were like, oh man, what am I doing here? Or was it like, I'm here and this is where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I ever really second guessed it like that. Like we said earlier, there's obviously hard days. There's hard days in any job, but it's really good work. It's rewarding. I enjoy it. It's hard work. We work hard, physical, moving bags of cement in 120-degree heat, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
a lot of them.
what do you do?
Yeah. So I fly for Samaritan's Purse in East Africa. We moved to Kenya, lived there for about 4 years. Then we moved to Uganda. We've been in Uganda for about 6. But the mission is mainly flying in South Sudan to support the work of Samaritan's Purse in South Sudan. And we have a lot of projects up there, kind of everything you can imagine, everything from Bible projects, literacy projects, water, sanitation, hygiene, drilling wells, putting in toilets, medical stuff, rebuilding churches. I mean, kind of everything you can imagine. And so we have different bases around the country. And so we fly to support the bases. So we'll like fly in the base food, for example. They need to eat. But then if they're doing a project that requires air support, we'll fly for them. So if they're doing a well drilling project, we'll fly in drill rod and case pipe for them. Or if they're doing a medical program, we'll fill the plane up with medicine and fly it up there for them. And so when you think of mission aviation, you probably often think of like mission organizations where they're like translating the Bible and flying missionaries. We do some of that, but what we do looks very much like a commercial cargo operation. We're flying stuff from point A to point B, going back, picking up more, and flying it back to point B. Yep. Yeah, if you want to talk about that airplane, we could do that too.
Go for it.
The old DC-3?
Yeah, the old DC-3. Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah. When I think of like missionary aviation, that's what I think of. Like fill it up with medicine, send it up there.
Yeah.
They got to build a church. They need concrete.
Exactly.
Send it up there.
Yep. Exactly.
So although that might look different to different people, that is just so important and so needed. And nobody knows that more than you because you see it with your own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, okay. So this is very different from the plane that you fly around here.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger, the DC-3. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so she was built as a C-47 back in 1945. And so I always tell people, I probably told you guys, like, if you've seen a World War II movie with paratroopers jumping out on D-Day, the airplane they jumped out of, that's what I fly. And
maybe one of those, actually.
But mine was built in 45, so mine missed the war.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But I did fly one that was built in 43 that they said flew on D-Day. I don't know for sure, but they said she flew on D-Day. So
there should be a stamp somewhere.
There should be, yeah.
There should
really.
be like an engraving.
Yeah, they're still up there working. Yeah, so she's
cool.
She's built in 45, converted to turbine engine, so it's got PT6 engines on it, just a lot more reliable, makes the airplane a lot faster. And we're flying, our average like flight is like 1.5 to 2 hours, carrying 3 metric tons roughly. So between 6,000 and 7,000 pounds of freight, or 31 passengers is our max. And it's a workhorse, big door. We can fit in some big loads. We've flown some big stuff, flown some generators that weighed 1,000 kilos. So one generator weighs 2,200 pounds. Put that in the airplane and take it somewhere.
Wow.
Another organization had an airplane, a 182, so it's like a 4-seat Cessna. They had that out in the field and it had engine problems, and so we flew out there, put their plane in the back of our airplane, and brought it back for them.
No way.
That was a cool mission. We've had it. We were flying in the Caribbean in response to the hurricanes in 2017 after Irma and Maria. Mm-hmm. We were flying down there, and then we took it down to Mozambique in 2019 after Cyclone Idai, doing a response down there. So flew in Mozambique for several weeks.
As a site, what was that part?
As a hurricane. It's a hurricane in the southern hemisphere. I think they call them cyclones.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
It's because they spin in like the opposite direction or
something like that.
toilets.
Yeah, right.
Don't make us look bad, Nick. We're really
So how many
smart.
ping pong balls can you fit in your airplane?
Several.
A couple.
The Fort Drum Air Show back in the day, like they had a big C-130, and it was like 7 billion ping pong balls. Why is that a relevant statistic?
And also, how do they know that? It's just is it a calculation or did somebody actually
Did they try?
Yeah, they must have like shoved them in there.
So what are the, like, can you talk a little bit about the logistics of flying around, I'm assuming, dangerous areas sometimes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've read books about missions, guys that did missions in Africa, in areas like Mogadishu and like really dangerous places. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like flying? Do you have any experiences like that? Is there heavy logistics going into just where you're flying and how to handle that kind of situation or those areas?
Yeah. So, I mean, Samaritan's Purse, I mean, kind of what we do over there with the airplanes is logistics, from procurement, quotes, purchasing, receiving, building the loads out, putting them on a truck, bringing them out to the plane. So all that happens before I see the cargo. And they back the truck up, open the doors, put it on the plane, fly it. And then they receive it in the field and eventually get it to who it needs to go to. So that's all the logistics. And you could do that anywhere in the world. Just where we do it makes it a little bit more difficult. And as far as, I mean, you were asking about hostilities. I mean, many times we've had to go in and pull people out because of hostilities in the area. So that's, I mean, I don't even know how many times we've gone in to pull people out. And we have really good security. There's a whole security department in South Sudan, and they have local contacts, and they keep really good track of the situation in the country. So if there's something going on, we know where it is. We know who's fighting. We know what weapons they're using. There's a lot of data that's acquired before we would deploy, before we would fly to an area like that. And then we would have, kind of certain procedures, don't fly over hostile areas, get up quick, get down quick, stuff like that, just to minimize exposure in the airplane.
Avoid detection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any stories? I shouldn't say good stories, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like any interesting stories of things that have gone on?
It's funny because, now, doing it for 10 years, the stories, it just is normal life.
Yeah.
Now, which is, it's hard to remember, like the first time you went in.
From all of us outsiders.
The best stories are some of the missions we've gotten to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily like in a hostile situation, but just you remember. I think the best part of the job is the people I've gotten to know. The airplane's cool. The mission is needed, and it's good. It's good work. But then some of the people I've gotten to meet are just these. They're the most unassuming, humble people you'd ever meet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be at the front of the line in heaven one day. Just have given their lives to the Lord and completely sold out. Like you look at them and the way they're living, and then you look at yourself and be like, man, I got to better gut check myself here because I'm not sure I'm living what I should be living. Yeah, and probably the go-to story, and one of the most rewarding things we do is the Cleft Lip project. Okay. And so in South Sudan, there's an acute inability to access healthcare. It's very difficult. People don't have access to healthcare, even at a very basic level. And so when babies are born with a cleft lip, it doesn't get fixed. And in the community with cleft lips, Samaritan's Purse has some really good videos on it. I'll probably explain it better than I would, but if the baby's born with a cleft lip, a lot of times the baby and then even the mom and the family are ostracized. They'll say the baby has a demon or it's cursed. Curses and that kind of thing are very prevalent in that culture. And so there's really horrible stories. Oftentimes the baby's just left out in the bush, to die. Horrible stuff. And so Samaritan's Purse has this project where this team, medical team, surgeons and OR folks will fly in from all over the world into Juba, which is the capital where the main base is, and set up shop, set up an OR, and we'll fly out, pick up a whole bunch of folks with cleft lip, bring them back. One day they do all the pre-op stuff. The next day they get surgery. Day after that we take them home. And so a lot of times when we're flying the cement to build the church, we fly the cement and we never see the church. But for cleft lip, we pick up all these kids with cleft lips, and then 2 days later we take them home and it's fixed. So it's like right there in real time. You can see it, and you can go in and watch the surgeries and watch the doc fixing a lip right there. And so that's really rewarding. A lot of times the kids will be named like they literally will name their child like Deformed. So like, hey, Deformed, it's time for breakfast. And then if they are named like that, they'll give them a new name. They'll have a naming ceremony, and then everything's about the gospel, spreading, helping in Jesus' name, spreading the gospel. With what we do, and so they'll give them a new name and share the gospel with them. It's pretty powerful.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and then they do cataract too, which is really cool. Cataracts over there don't get fixed. So you have people who are blind. And it's interesting. With the cleft lip, it's oftentimes younger people. I mean, they've done cleft lip with people who are like 70 years old. These old folks who've lived their entire life with a cleft lip, and then they fix it, which is cool.
Yeah.
But with the cataracts, it's mostly the older folks, although there's some young people with cataracts. But yeah, literally making the blind see.
Right.
And so, yeah, I got to watch a cataract surgery, and that's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand, like, tying a muscle together.
Right.
Putting a new lens in somebody's eye, that's just, like, it's
kind of
crazy.
mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. It's insane. And then, you're there the day after the surgery, they take the patch off, and this person can see again. Right there. It's so cool.
What is that experience like? It must be... Like you ever see the colorblind glasses and the people like crying for seeing color the first time?
Yeah.
But so are these people who were able to see, then lost vision, and now they can see again?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But maybe have never seen their grandkids. You know?
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they'll do a lot of them. With the cleft lip, we'll usually do like 100 in a week. The cataract surgeries only take like 5 minutes. So they'll do like 500 in a week.
Incredible.
Yeah, 500 people who
Full
couldn't see
generations
last
that
week.
you can impact like that.
It's neat. Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of purpose in that. In that
Yeah,
work,
exactly. Yeah, and those missions kind of keep you going when it's bags of cement over and over. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like refilling you.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I feel like working with the children that'd be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that must have been fairly emotional the first couple times you got to do that.
Yeah, it's really good. And then just this last cleft lip trip, my mom got to go.
Yeah,
she came over and was doing that, helping out in the hospital, and then Whitney's been on that project too. And
we'd love to have your mom on. I know she does a lot of those flights from back and forth. Definitely,
she'd have a lot to say.
We definitely will.
Yep.
We're about to lose feed, and I got to change a couple batteries. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your missions work, and then also maybe if we can get this training video up there. That'd be fun to reference really quick so people can see. And then I have just a couple more hard-hitting questions.
All right.
Not really that hard-hitting. And we'll go from there. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, man. And we're back. Okay, so we're going to start off this segment with Pat showing us some of his sick training that he was doing. And we haven't really seen a lot of this, just like a snippet. So he's going to walk us through it. And I'm going to start at 36. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Does this thing tell me?
Yeah, so this is just we just did, it's called upset prevention recovery training. And so the idea is that if the aircraft gets in a state where it's out of control or in this unusual attitude, nose up, nose down, upside down, whatever, that you don't have as much of a startle surprise response. And that then first you're trained to prevent it, but then if you do get in that situation, you can recover appropriately. So that's what this training was all about. That's why we were doing what we're doing.
You're going to want to tune into the YouTube folks for this.
Yeah, maybe we can clip it. Okay,
yes,
so
that's
this
what we were
is
doing.
you.
Yep.
You just look like you're just like Maverick.
Yeah, right.
Top Gun.
So the Earth is round.
The guy in the back was actually
so the Earth is round.
Gun.
Okay, that's good to know. Seems to be a point of debate lately. All right,
look pretty high.
This?
Yeah, we're probably like 10,000.
10,000 feet.
10,000 feet up.
All right, so let's see here.
Yep. Oh, you should unmute it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Will it play audio? Oh, it might not. Hold on.
Yeah, I turned it up. You got this.
I can do it. But it might,
Just to
I
hear
might have to use the...
Oh, I got you.
The remote.
Yeah, the remote. Grab the remote.
Nah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so this is Nick. Yeah, grab the remote, Nick. Grab the remote, Jamie. Nick. It's the one without the buttons on the left. There we go. And where's the other remote, too? Perfect. This one? Nope. Okay. The one up above on the chair. Yeah. Perfect.
Very
Everybody's gonna
good.
be like, what is happening? Okay, we'll go back a couple. I just learned that you can go back like 5 seconds.
Yeah, man, isn't that great? And you can hit K to like pause and
amazing.
restart.
Okay. Oh, I can hear. I hear.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.
Take two.
Take two. Jamie's he's really slacking on us. All right, let's make it nice and loud so we can hear.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to blow our eardrums out.
Probably.
Ready? Ready. So idle, just help me hear what you're doing here. So idle, you're holding altitude. Yep. So forward stick. Forward stick to stall. Backwards in your right rudder. Okay. Incipient. Okay. Here comes that little G, just like over the develop. And then we'll kind of settle into negative. Yep. Neutral. Yep. Left rudder. That's what we're going to forward. Back stick. Elevator forward.
That was me last night.
There's levels to this.
Dang, that's crazy.
Okay, so walk us through that a little bit. I'll
So this was an inverted spin.
Okay.
And so if you stall an aircraft where the wing stops flying, the airflow will separate off the top of the wing, depending on the angle that the wing is driving through the air at. It has a critical angle. So if you reach that critical angle, the air will separate and the airplane will stop flying.
Okay.
If you stall an aircraft and then there's any yaw, which is rotation about the vertical axis, that kind of that slip in, that fishtailing, whatever you want to call it. If you have a stall and yaw, the aircraft can roll over and then start this auto rotation where it's just kind of in a nose low attitude, spinning down like this, not flying, just spinning towards the earth. And so that's what this was, but inverted. And so this airplane can fly upside down, obviously, no problem. The engine fuel system can run inverted, and the wing is actually identical. Like you saw on my plane, the bottom was kind of flat and the top was curved to make that airfoil shape. This wing is symmetrical, so it's the same top and bottom. So it can fly just as well upside down as it can right side up.
Wow.
And so we were inverted, so the wing was flying upside down. And then we stalled the aircraft and then induced yaw. And so then it went into this spin, but inverted.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that makes me queasy just thinking about it.
Right?
Hold on
Why
about
do
it.
it? Why do it right side up when you can do it upside down?
That's right.
So like this was like training to learn how to maneuver out of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you were saying that this is not like a normal set of training. Like a lot of pilots don't have this.
That's
which
right.
is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of pilots don't do anything like this. And a lot of pilots never fly past, like in an aircraft. Like last night, we never got beyond like 10 degrees nose up or down.
Yeah.
Not more than like 45 degrees of bank. And so for a lot of guys, like 10 up and down and then even like 20, 25 degrees bank is like the most they'll ever go to. And so anything outside that is very uncomfortable. And especially being upside down is uncomfortable if you're not familiar with it. Obviously, 'cause the ground's rushing up at you is very disorienting. And so it can be hard to know what to do. And so that's exactly why this training.
Were you nervous?
No, I loved it, man.
Really?
It was so sick.
This looks like you're right up your alley.
Dude,
and you guys sound like you just are on an Apollo mission.
I'd have done this all day.
Wow.
It was so fun.
One small step for man. Okay, so my other question with this is, I lost my train of thought. This is it. When you're moving like this, does your mental preparedness this is kind of the whole point of this. The whole point of this is so that when something goes wrong, you know what to do. And
Exactly.
I can relate to that for sure, because a lot of our training was the same way.
And then when you are in that startle response, phase, when your brain is working that way, you fall back on your training. You will do what you're trained to do.
Yep. That's it. Yep, that sounds right.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's amazing that people don't get this kind of training.
Yeah.
Like for commercial, especially. 'Cause, I mean, those things pretty much fly themselves a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And it's happened. I mean, there was a, you used to call it an incident where there was a huge, the biggest airplane in the world, probably the A380, Airbus A380, the double-decker airline. They were flying along like this, and there was a Challenger, a biz jet, flying along underneath them. Beautiful weather, clear skies. They were 1,000 feet apart. Flew under them, opposite direction, and then it was like 2 or 3 minutes later, the jet made two complete rolls and ended up like this. From the wake turbulence of the 380. And so that's one of the scenarios we would do here. We'd be flying along, talking about something, and all the instructor just knocked the stick over and just two rolls and ended up like this. And then you recover. And obviously this airplane is just insane. This airplane is unbelievable with its responsiveness and with its strength and power. It's really incredible. Yeah.
That is incredible. The versatility of the little planes. Obviously with a bigger, like a DC-3, would all the same principles apply?
They would.
It would obviously be a lot different because it's a lot bigger aircraft. There's a lot more mechanicals probably, and then you have to think cargo and people on board.
Yep.
Okay, so
but they kind of teach you like the recovery. It's like as uncouple, neutralize, analyze, push, roll, power. It's like a mantra that you do, and that will work in any aircraft. And what you're doing is the same. It's just going to feel and look a little bit different because obviously this thing is unlimited.
You should try it in an Airbus sometime.
That's crazy. Like the testament to the reliability of the aircraft and the technology these days. I'm sure. I don't know how it would work in your plane being a little older, but like just for them to be like, and then just like throw the plane off and the idea that you will recover it. People, I don't think people think of airplanes as being reliable. Most
Sure.
people are terrified of
Yeah.
the
No, they
idea
are.
of flying up in the sky in this metal tube.
Yeah.
But like you guys are just up there
Right.
tooling along and then you can get it back.
Yeah.
And it's like a total opposite of what you would think.
Yep.
Like,
I would assume all the same techniques apply for, like you were just saying, even with the little.
Yeah.
So we should have tested it yesterday.
Yeah, but that's the
we had
beauty.
the joystick. We could just been like,
Just seen how that training really went out.
Yeah. Did you learn anything? No, that's the beauty of this airplane is you have so much margin. I mean,
Okay.
like my airplane's certified to like plus 3.8 G. So like
Okay.
that's how hard you can pull. This airplane's certified to 10.
Wow.
Yeah, and you would not want to pull 10 Gs. I mean, the most I pulled in this thing was like 5,
And you were like,
and that was a lot.
what did it feel like? Yeah.
I mean, it's just everything is just pressing you into your seat. And so that's the beauty of training on aircraft is way better than a simulator, obviously, because you get that ground rush.
right.
But then too, doing it in an airplane like this, where you have all the margin, it's very, very safe.
Okay.
You know, if you're training something that you're right on the edge, then obviously you could overpull or overspeed something. This thing you can't.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
this is the 43-minute mark. What are we going to be seeing here?
I think it's a loop. And so we did all the upset stuff where the instructor would be flying. He'd put you here and then say, okay, recover. And then you do your uncouple, neutralize, analyze, push, roll, power, reset, pitch, power, trim. You know, just kind of run through it and get it back. But then we also did some kind of basic aerobatics just to become familiar with what that all feels like, being in different orientations, different
Right.
attitudes.
All right, let's try it. You want to see it?
Yeah,
let's go.
take us there. This is
Level.
probably that was probably a 4 or 5 G pull.
Wow.
And so then you look out the side to see how you're doing, and then look over the top. And then right here, you're back to going over the top. You're like half to 1 G probably, and then out the bottom, you're back to 4 or 5. It was a barrel roll, so it's like half of a loop and half of a roll.
I see that
Yeah,
in the bottom right there.
yeah.
Dude, you look like you are just in your element.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. It's
Oh,
fun
man.
because it's
Confidence, like you're in your
well,
element. Yeah.
And when, I mean, you've been
Think
there,
as you
I'm
can.
sure, working as a cop or whatever, but like when you're just in this environment where you're like fully switched on,
Yeah.
just like you're
Yeah.
all there, all your snapsies are snapping.
Look at that.
It feels good.
Okay, what is that called?
So that's a hammerhead. So yeah, you pull to the vertical,
Okay.
get it going straight up, airspeed's bleeding, then you get to the top and you kick the pedal, come back down like this, and then come back out, go in the opposite direction. They're really fun.
Wow.
Yeah, hammerheads are fun.
The next one's at 4750. Here, I want to see this again. Is this another hammerhead?
Well, I think this is a hammerhead with a roll in it, so we pull to the vertical. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That last one he demoed. This is me doing it.
Oh, okay.
And then he's like, you want to make it harder?
Oh.
Do a roll in the vertical. A roll in the vertical plane.
For a moment, does that feel like a free fall?
No, but we did do a free fall. We pulled to the vertical and went straight up, and they have a piece of yarn tied to the wingtip. And so that yarn is always trailing back, obviously. But we went straight up and then started falling tail first.
Oh.
And so, yeah, you're looking out the window and the
No.
yarn's going back. Then all of a sudden the yarn just goes whoosh,
No.
going
Nope.
front.
I'd be like, eject.
Going backwards. Don't do it, Goose.
Don't do it, Goose.
Wow, that was quick.
Roll fast.
Completely unloaded in the vertical.
So the wing's not pulling.
that
The
makes
wing's not
sense.
holding anything. And so the more unloaded the
Okay.
wing is, the faster it'll roll because the wing's not doing anything else.
Got it.
Yep.
That must have been beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let me get
It's like
to
a whole other, like we were talking about levels, like it's a whole other level, like a whole other dimension
Mm-hmm.
of flying an airplane to fly it upside down.
Hey-o.
Look at that. Check that out. It must be so disorienting too. Like, but that's the whole point of this training is so that when you're involuntarily put through that stress, you know how to react.
Yep.
That's what we're all about, right, Nick?
Right.
That's why I cold plunge. Okay, this is at 4750. Yes, okay.
It's just an aileron roll.
A what?
An aileron roll, so just rolling.
Oh, okay.
Rolling this way, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, here, let's check that out. Okay. Wow.
The response of the plane just to do whatever you tell it
Madness.
is insane.
And that's this airplane is just crazy.
How did you get back to level so easy? Was that all you? Was that you?
Mm-hmm.
Just feeling it, or is that instrumentation?
No, visual. Everything's visual.
Just on the horizon.
Yep. And with this airplane too, with how it performs, like you center the stick and it just stops. Like some airplanes, there'll be a trend, it'll keep going. But this thing, I mean, if you go back, you can see the control deflection. So you can see the aileron on the wing, down on the inset there.
Keep going.
To wherever, 40. Yeah, just keep going back to the roll. 4750. Yeah, there you go. So I don't know which way to roll, but that aileron is going to deflect one way, so it went up.
Oh.
Right, so it's still up, still up.
Watch it snap.
Boom.
Boom.
And as soon as it comes in line with the wing, it's just like it's over.
Done.
Yeah.
And this must be so responsive.
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't even have to move the stick. You just kind of like put a little pressure on it, and it's already doing what you're thinking.
No, I'm no.
It was a joy to fly, man.
I'm no pilot, but my father-in-law will talk about. He loves the jets.
Yeah.
You know, and he talks about how like it just.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he fly fighters or what jets was he flying?
No, he wasn't flying, but he just knows the
just
ins
working
and
in that
outs.
industry. Yeah.
He just knows like. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Just incredible. The technology, unbelievable.
Yep.
And so, so the mental preparedness side of your work is so important. There's so many contingencies and there's so many different things that could go wrong or things that could go right, really. Mm-hmm. And you have to be vigilant all the time, which is really fascinating. I love the idea of preparing yourself for externalities that you may never use.
Yeah. And that's the hope. That's the hope. All this, I hope I never have to use this in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. All the engine failure training, all the abnormal stuff. Hopefully, we never ever have to use it.
Any close calls like that ever in your career?
I haven't lost an engine. Nope, I've never lost an engine. I've had stuff fail, but nothing that was like really critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuel pumps or valves or this and that. I had an engine leaking oil once. Oil pressure was falling, so I had to get that on the ground. That engine would have failed probably within the next 5 to 10 minutes after I landed had I kept flying. So far so good.
So what did that look like? Did you have to land it in some field somewhere, or you find the nearest
runway?
runway?
No, I made it to an airstrip. Yeah.
Okay.
No, so it was flying a Cub up in Alaska, and thankfully I had just flown that Cub I flew it from Texas to Alaska, so I'd spent a lot of time sitting in that seat, and the oil pressure was like always at this number, always. And I'm flying up over this glacier up in Alaska, and I looked down, and it was like 2 pounds lower. I was like, odd. So I just turned around and started going towards the closest airship at that point. Kept going down, and but it was still in the green. Like the green range was like from, I don't remember, like 50 to 90. It usually ran at 78. I looked down, it was at 76. Oh. Still well within the green.
Right.
But something was abnormal. Abnormal is key. And it was just when the oil had gotten changed recently, there was a little piece of a gasket that was missing, so it was leaking oil. That was it. And so got it back on the ground. It was interesting though. The day before that, I was talking to another instructor, and we were just kind of talking through these abnormal scenarios, like what would you do if? What would you do if? And we talked through low oil pressure on this style engine. And we were talking about the fact that if you like pitch up, all the oil runs to the back of the sump and then gets pulled back up the suction tube inside the engine, and it'll give you more oil pressure. Literally the day prior. And then when I was flying, it worked. You'd be flying at your best glide speed, so at the speed that you can go the farthest. So we'd just be chilling right there and then kind of pull up for a couple seconds, and then oil pressure would kind of bump up a little bit and then start coming down again. Pull up, bump up, coming back down again.
Sounds like the Lord to me.
Crazy. It is, 100%.
Dang, dude.
Yep, 100%.
Attention to detail and mental preparedness, running through scenarios. We talk about this sometimes. How I used to sit in my cruiser and just run through scenarios in my head.
Yeah.
Just in case I needed to use
Yep.
them. And hopefully I didn't have to, like
Right.
you said. But you can tell the people who don't do that when they're in the situation that they've never thought of. And you, like, life and death situations are what you would be in if something failed. Right. And like, you need to be able to calmly execute and properly manage that situation. So that's a
probably
testament to you.
probably the closest, I would call it the closest call, but I had a flat tire in the DC-3 one time. And with a tail dragger, like I've had flat tires in other airplanes and it wasn't that big a deal. But with a tail dragger that's that size and it was a main gear, you know, if you came in like in the Cub yesterday, we kind of landed and rolled up on the mains, kind of cruised level for a little bit, and then the tail came down.
Right.
So that's what we do in the DC-3. Same thing, kind of roll it up on the mains. But if you did that with a flat tire, obviously you could put it up on the nose, you could spin it and collapse the gear, cartwheel. I mean, it could be pretty bad.
Right.
But by the grace of God, we knew we had a flat tire. We were just about to rotate off the runway, and the airplane started shaking like crazy. And I think it must have pulled to the right. I think it must have, like, I don't remember that, but there was 3 of us in the airplane at the time, and we all said right main's flat. So I think it must have been just almost an imperceptible pull to the right. But this exact same scenario happened to my mentor, good friend and mentor in East Africa. Same exact scenario, taken off. Tire went flat, came back around and landed. And I talked to him. He taught me how to fly the DC-3, so I talked to him about it many times. And he did like a 1-page write-up on what he did, what he should have done, how he did it, and like we were talking about like being fully turned on, like those scenarios where your brain's on is like all on. And so brain was like accessing all that stuff. I probably could have about recited what he wrote on that 1-pager. And came back around and thankfully was fine. Landed on the runway and it was flat, but didn't damage anything on the airplane. So.
Yeah,
could have gone
where training and instinct intersect.
Yeah,
is
no,
a
exactly.
very important place. And
Exactly.
I think that maybe some people are born with an ability to avoid panic, and instead, like you keep saying, where the training takes over.
Yeah, your stress performance curve,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
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 Wonder what kind of, it makes you wonder what kind of person you are, but you know, I don't know. I do wonder, do you think that training can compensate? Or do you think you're born with it to a certain degree?
I think a lot of it is training. It's good training that, like what you were saying, we call it chair flying. Flying a plane, sitting in a chair. Just running through those scenarios. Yeah,
I've seen a lot of videos. Have you seen the videos that are popping up, like of fighter pilots like running through their routines, sitting in a chair?
Yeah,
and like they're just like in their own world. Like they look ridiculous, but like kind of cool at the same time.
And
they're like, if you're a fighter pilot,
they're
anything's
making,
cool.
Like, hand movements and stuff. And, no, it's interesting.
Yep. Or you see these
flying.
you see these aerobatic pilots. They'll be walking out on the ramp before their routine, and they're just eyes closed, and they're just walking through everything they're gonna do. Yep.
Yeah, chair flying. That's cool.
But then it comes back when you need it. It's there. But if you don't do that, and you need it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Preparedness is key. And training, relying on your training. Oh my word. I can't tell you how many times where it's like, oh, well, why did you do that? Because that's what I was trained to do.
Yeah.
It just came back to me in that moment because I needed it.
Yeah.
And especially with like comprehensive, crushed in training, like 7 months, you know, is like, here's
high
a
level,
billion things you need to know and all the different complexities. And then you think when you I remember getting in my car for the first time, being like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like what? I need more training. But then the first instant I was in, was like, nope,
it was there.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's like in that space, in that sweet spot.
Yep.
Where it's like you're just totally focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was if you could say like some of the biggest things from moving from the West, from like the United States to Africa, what would be a couple of like the most obvious things that stand out to you for differences?
Differences between the U.S. and Africa? I mean, most obvious differences are just like what you see driving home from the airport. You know, there's bad roads or speed bumps or traffic or whatever the case may be. I mean, poverty is more prevalent, obviously, and what poverty looks like is different over there. Ability to access, you know, some basic stuff is more difficult for the majority of people. But we live very Western over there. Like Whitney makes pizza Friday night. We go to the pool and swim. I have a dirt bike I ride around on a track for fun. Like our lives over there look very normal for what a Westerner would think, I think. But then as soon as you step out, off away from kind of that little bubble, it's hard to survive, I think.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah. Yep. And what's valued, the Western world is a very prepared world. Like the idea of saving and being ready is just kind of normal, at least maybe in our circles. Mm-hmm. But over there, it's very much like a hand-to-mouth mentality. It's like if you have it, you eat it.
Right.
And where's supper coming from? Don't know. We'll figure it out. It's just that's the mentality. Like, and then it translates. I have money for a fancy phone. Buy it. I don't have any money. I have $120 in my pocket. I'm going to spend it all on this phone. What are you going to eat for supper tomorrow? I have no idea.
Interesting.
So just
totally different frame of
mind.
A
lot of different mindset. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's deep. That's deep. That's deeply rooted, deeply seated.
In the history and in the culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because something that Ezra said was that the hierarchy of needs, pretty much, if that first one's not met for eating and drinking, he goes, nothing else matters.
Right.
So even if you're hungry, you're not thinking about like financial decisions or what that looks like or what fiscally responsible looks like.
Right.
No, it's very different. It's very, very different. And Dad also, my dad Will, in episode 8, was talking about being in India.
Sure.
And like seeing a baby in the middle of the road just sitting there, and Mom was off on the side picking berries for that night. It's like, I think we need to be pretty grateful.
Yeah, for sure. And realize why. Why is this country the way it is? It was founded on biblical principles. The founding fathers prayed for weeks before they wrote the Constitution. It's not a coincidence.
No.
No, we're the most blessed country in the history of the world.
Yep. Let me, actually, we have a couple minutes. Nick, do you have something? I want to, if it's okay with you guys, we got about 5 more minutes here, and then I just want to just jump off, hit them again, and then we'll wrap up so you can get you guys out of here. I have 1 or 2 more questions, but is there anything that you have to add on that, Nick?
Have you ever ran through like an ejection training scenario?
Nope. None of the airplanes I fly have ejection seats.
Have you ever skydived?
I have.
Sweet.
I think
Did you like it?
We were just we were just thinking.
Yeah, it was a hoot.
We were just thinking of who we know that would do that. I know Brandon did it.
Yeah, I kicked him out. Yeah, I flew him.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I was flying skydivers in
that.
college. I flew skydivers on the weekends just to make a little money and get some more flight time and all that. So I flew skydive on the weekends, and Brandon came down for my graduation. Oh, okay. And he wanted to skydive, so I kicked him out. Yeah.
That's a perfectly good
And
airplane.
they gave when I left the company, they gave me a tandem. They just let me do a tandem jump. That was sweet. So
What is that like? Like being at the edge of the door.
It was no problem. Well, and 2, I mean, you got to remember. I'd seen
this guy barrel rolls at 10,000 feet. Yeah,
I've seen like 100 people go out the door.
Okay.
I've seen it so many times. Like that chair flying, the way my brain works, I probably just kind of visualized, hey, I go here, you cross your arms, put your knee here, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what it feels like before you even do it.
Yeah. So it was fun. and like, I felt like I could think on the way down and looking around, and yeah, it was sweet. Yep.
Well, with your experience too, like some of those feelings are like,
sure.
you know what it feels like to free fall.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me on the other hand, when we turned it like that 45 or whatever, I was like, am I safe here?
My knee's outside the plane. Can we fix that?
I can feel the air. Is this okay?
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that was my big heavy hitter right there.
We're hard hitting journalists here.
Yeah, you are.
The bar's never been
Asking
lower.
the hard questions.
Oh man. Okay, I'm just going to jump off. Everybody, we'll be on a break, and then we'll be coming right back, which is like only going to be 10 seconds for them. We're always like, hey, we're back. And they're like, what? You left? I just have 2 more questions, and then we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, no worries.
Cool. All right, be right back, everybody. Part 4. Right. We made it back. Very long break. Okay, so I have not seen that. I have not seen that video, but I did see something recently where something opened that wasn't supposed to. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously,
Sounds
she must
terrifying.
have been flying pretty fast, and she had no eye protection anymore, and she like remained calm.
Maybe that's the one I saw. Yeah, she was like,
landed the thing.
Yeah.
my gosh.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a nightmare scenario for me. Okay, so, wow, this has been really great, Pat. A couple things before we go. if you want to just touch on, I guess just what things are most important to you, getting a little bit broader scope here away from
Stop
aviation.
talking airplanes.
Yeah, well, I could talk about airplanes forever, especially for you.
Me too.
You're very articulate, so it's very easy to listen to, and especially in regarding to like faith and family.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, well, that's it. Faith and family. I mean, yeah, if your walk with the Lord isn't priority, then it's all for nothing. And you see that in families, people trying to raise kids, right, but they don't know the Lord. It's like, what's the point? With the work of Samaritan's Purse, it's like there's a lot of organizations out there doing the same stuff we're doing. They just don't have the gospel as part of it, and it's like, what's the point? There's no point. You're spending billions of dollars for what? But then, at a personal level, that's it. Is that has to come first. And if it doesn't come first, it's all for nothing. Wasn't worth it.
You're helping the people get to the next day, the next week, the next year, but the eternal thought
For
isn't
what?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yep. And it's easy to lose. I mean, whatever. How you want to say, lose the forest for the trees. But it's easy to get mired down in the work. And like, is the mission to deliver this load of cargo to point B? Well, yeah. But in the scheme of things, the mission is that these people hear the gospel, and then this cargo's a way for that to happen. Yeah, and so sometimes I don't know if the Lord pricks my heart or whatever, but sometimes when we're loading cargo, I'll just pray over it. Lord, would you bless this cargo with the people that it eventually reaches by your grace? Would they hear and respond to the gospel? But your question is more personal. Yeah, so I mean, just for me, that's the challenge. It's always a challenge. Is keeping that first, keeping that fresh, and then after that is the family. Relationship with Whitney first, and then the kids after that, teaching them, bringing them up, trying to introduce them to the Lord and get them, walking that path too. Yeah, that's the goal.
That was interesting what you just said. You said the relationship with Whitney first, and the kids come after.
Yeah. It's easy to get that screwed up.
I was gonna say, is that tough sometimes?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, because I don't think that only recently I've heard somebody say that out loud. And it was like, yes, that's right.
Yep.
But I don't know if I've ever really heard it outside of.
Yeah.
Yes. It's everybody loves their kids so much. It's easy, and we've had this discussion before. It's easy to neglect your marriage, and then
you see the divorce rate when the kids get out of the house.
Right.
Huge spike.
Huge spike.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're living with a stranger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
man,
that's it.
Cool.
And it's funny. I mean, you get home from work. I'm usually gone for a week at a time, so I'll leave Monday, come home Friday. So Whitney's just home with the kids by herself all week, and we'll FaceTime every once in a while. A couple nights here and there, I'll talk to her. But then you get home, and the kids are just like, Dad, and they're running down the stairs, and it's easy just to be like, Dad, come look at this, Dad, come look at that, and just a practical, intentional, nope, let me give Mommy a hug, see how she's doing, then we can go look at your flat bike tire or whatever it is.
Yeah. Go play ball.
But it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to keep that straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's the person that, realistically, you have your kids for 18 years.
Sure. Yep.
And then after that, you've got the rest of your life. And when people neglect their marriage for those 18 years, it rears its ugly head afterwards.
Yep.
And so being
kids
intentional.
are kind of a cover.
Yeah. And something that Stephanie said, which is my wife, for anybody who's not aware, she had said, well, it cascades, the blessings cascade off of the marriage bond. Your kids see that. That's important for them.
They do see that. 100%.
They do see that. They understand what love is in relationship.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the picture of Christ in the church. That is going to be their idea, at least initially, of what that relationship is supposed to look like.
Yeah. And who they select in a partner, and all of those things, and what it does for them psychologically and emotionally. Yeah, is so massive. Yeah. I've been challenged that way recently to make her the first stop. And that's very important. It's very easy. I love my little girls too, so it's very easy to not do that. But that's good. That's really good advice for anybody who's listening. Yeah, prioritize your marriage first. Boy,
kids are cute though.
They are cute, and you love them a lot.
Pretty. Kids are cute. Yeah, maybe when you get home, it is the kids who are screaming your name and running to the door. So maybe if the wives start doing that, it'll help, I guess. I don't know.
You go pro tip.
Pro tip for the ladies.
Yeah,
for all the ladies.
It is hard. It's hard because Yeah, there's just something. Those kids are so darn cute, and yeah, like as soon as you get home, you know, sons are looking for something to show you. Like, what did they build with their Legos? And they run to get that, and the daughters are running up to you, yelling, "Daddy, Daddy!" And your wife's right there in the background, and that's where you got to go. You got to kind of
in the background,
just for a second, you know, make her the priority. And
so her enthusiasm just needs to be more than the kids, and that's all. I was away for a business trip. And which I do pretty regularly, and Brielle had it must have been a church group that we were having at your place, and I surprised them by coming there a little earlier from coming home, and as soon as I opened the door, Sienna, my oldest daughter, was right at the door. Nice. She was like, I'm like, "Daddy," give me a hug, and Stephanie was standing behind her, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't really feel great."
Yeah,
it's like because the women need the validation for that reason too. Like your wives need to know that they are the priority.
I came around the corner when that happened, and like I saw you and I saw her, and I was like, "Oh crap!" and like tiptoed out.
Yeah, you ruined the moment.
I'm sorry.
No, I didn't even see you there. No, okay, wow, that's awesome stuff.
That's good stuff.
This one will morph into kind of just a quick snippet on parenting, but also some reflection. If you could tell your 18-year-old self something, or 16, let's say.
Yeah.
What would that be? And is it different than what you would tell your kids?
Wow.
That hard hitters,
that hits
man.
way harder than your...
Sorry.
Yes.
No, yeah. What would you tell your 18-year-old self? Yeah, keep Christ first. Keep him the priority. Because I think it's fun. I mean, it kind of harkens back to like the kids versus the wife. Like, if the mission becomes more important than the purpose, then you missed it. And I think for me, like airplanes at times have definitely been an idol, which is not good. And to get to the point to say, you know, Lord, if this is an idol, I want you to take it away. That was real and still is, but that's really hard for me to say because it's hard to imagine life without airplanes. And I mean, I love aviation, all the parts of it. This flying upside down stuff, the throwing cargo on a plane, going for a hop at sunset. I mean, all of it. The technical side, the art of it. But to be able to, and you have to be able to say that, you know, Lord, if this is out of order here, I don't want it. But that, for a long time, that was really hard to say, and it still would be. But you have to be able to get to that. You have to keep, and then in His goodness, He gives it back to you in a way that's just more abundant and fulfilling than you could imagine. And if He does take it away tomorrow, I might never fly again. You know, you don't know when your last landing is going to be, or your last takeoff, really. But if He takes it away, it's okay, because in His goodness, something else will be there. So that would probably be it. You gotta stay oriented properly, correctly. Yep. I'd probably tell my kids that.
I think that's a good message to tell your kids.
No, I think, and too, a lot of the advice, I mean, I think a lot of that I think a lot of the things that I would tell my 18-year-old self, your dad, my parents, you know, people at school, Dwayne, Brian, I mean, these people, I think, said a lot of the things that you should say to your 18-year-old self, which is a blessing. Yep. When I was 18. Yep.
I don't see a better place to go after that.
No, man, that's good. Yeah, we've been very blessed that way.
Yeah.
And I think what you said, not letting the mission overcome
like the purpose.
Yeah, you said earlier you're very mission oriented.
Very.
So
So that's got to be hard.
Like if we have a wheels up time, if we're gonna be wheels up at 6:30 and it's starting to look a little late, we are gonna go hard. Yeah. If we got a long day and we're loading something and you're not loading fast enough, I'm probably gonna tell you about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Never really seen that side of Pat. So
come bring freight with me, man.
Yeah, I'll come move freight. Well, this was a huge treat for us. Yesterday, flying in the plane, I'll remember that forever. And we had some cool moments with the family, too.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Really appreciate you coming in and sharing. We'll have you out again next year when you're here.
Yeah,
we're just going to book it right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like, seriously, what a privilege.
Yeah, we scratched the surface, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's it. Nick, why don't you take us out? Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Pat. It's great to have you here, and thanks for giving what little bit of time you have here stateside to us. So we're really grateful. Thank you.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.